Welcome back, everyone. This brings us to the end of our section on how to design, implement, and manage an Azure Express Route connection. We covered a lot of ground in this section. Let's go ahead and review the main concepts that we wanted to focus on before we move on to our next section. We started off, as usual, with the high-level overview of Azure Express Route concepts, in which we learned that Express Route is a private connection to Microsoft Cloud that you do not share with anyone else. We also covered the general topology of an ExpressRoute connection, in which you connect to a Microsoft Edge router via both the partner and direct models. We also learned that an ExpressRoute connection is private, however, it is not encrypted by default. However, encryption can be applied via a couple different methods after your circuit is up and working. We also previewed the fact that there are a lot of different configuration options to be familiar with, which we did expand in later lessons. And we finish up by covering the 3 ExpressRoute network gateway SKUs that you need to know, as well as their availability zone redundant counterparts. We then moved on to a lesson of the 2 different types of ExpressRoute models we need to be familiar with, starting with our different connectivity models, in other words, how you connect to Microsoft, which include both the service provider model, or 3 different models to be more specific, which require going through a service partner, and also the direct model, in which you connect directly to Microsoft with no middleman. We also cover the different service models, or in other words, the ExpressRoute circuit SKUs, which include ExpressRoute Standard, Local, and Premium. From which we also cover the main differences between those 3 different SKUs, which include different regional restrictions, outbound data pricing, specifically the local SKU has unlimited inbound and outbound pricing by default. Keep in mind, though, you can also choose the unlimited tier for standard and premium for an additional charge. And we also covered additional perks, specifically the Global Reach feature, which is a feature of the premium SKU. We then moved on to a quick look at 2 optional features to be aware of called ExpressRoute Global Reach and FastPath. Starting with Global Reach, we learned that it acts as establishing branch office or SD-WAN connectivity over Microsoft's backbone, in which you can directly connect multiple on-premises locations using Microsoft's backbone to go ahead and handle that transport. From a SKU perspective, and this is the really important part, we also learned that this requires the ExpressRoute Premium Circuit SKU in order to use Global Reach. We then talked about ExpressRoute FastPath, which is another optional feature that allows you to route traffic directly into an individual virtual machine, therefore bypassing the network gateway for the lowest latency possible. And again, from a SKU perspective, from the ExpressRoute Network Gateway perspective, this requires the Ultra Performance Network Gateway SKU. We next moved on to the big picture steps on how to actually implement an ExpressRoute Gateway, which starts with creating an ExpressRoute Virtual Network Gateway in the virtual network we are connecting to, creating the ExpressRoute circuit itself, both on the Azure and service provider side, creating our peering, in the case of a virtual network, would be an Azure private peering. And then we complete the process by connecting our completed circuit with our ExpressRoute virtual network, more specifically to the ExpressRoute virtual network gateway. After our demonstration, we finished up this section with a high-level overview of the different troubleshooting methods available when troubleshooting an ExpressRoute connection, which include when troubleshooting zero connectivity, starting with checking our circuit state, in other words, is it provisioned or not, confirming that our BGP private peering configuration is accurate, testing peering connectivity and gateway availability using the diagnose function built into each of those services. We also talked about how to troubleshoot network performance, in other words, the connection works but it's not performing well, starting with using traditional network troubleshooting tools, using an Azure-specific PowerShell module called Azure Connectivity Toolkit, and also using the Network Watcher service, specifically the Connection Monitor feature built into that service. Finishing up, let's once again go back to our favorite fictional bakery of Control-Alt-Suites for yet another case study scenario. For this case study scenario, I'm going to give you a configuration or a set of requirements that our favorite bakery needs to meet, and what I'm going to want you to do is pause the video and think about what different ExpressRoute configurations will meet these requirements. For Control-Alt-Suites, they need to design an ExpressRoute configuration with the following requirements. Above all else, they need to save costs. ExpressRoute is a pretty expensive service, and we're trying to save money when possible. They also only need to connect to a single region for their specific requirements. In their environment, there's going to be a large amount of data exchange, both inbound and outbound. And for their specific requirements for this massive data exchange, they need the lowest latency possible into a single virtual machine. Based on these requirements, which ExpressRoute configuration or configurations do you think they should choose? Go ahead and pause the video, think about it for a second. Let's go ahead and move on into our solution. So for these set of requirements, we are going to start off with the ExpressRoute circuit SKU, in which case we're going to recommend the ExpressRoute local circuit SKU. This SKU meets the requirements of lower cost. Again, the local circuit SKU is the lowest cost option compared to standard and premium. The local SKU also supports unlimited outbound data. In other words, you can have all the data you want coming in and out at no additional charge. And it also meets the single region requirement. If we need to connect to multiple regions, a different SKU would be required, but in this case, it is not. For the second set of our requirements, in which we need the lowest latency possible into a single virtual machine, we would recommend from the network gateway side using the Ultra Performance Network Gateway SKU. As we learned earlier, the Ultra Performance Network Gateway SKU is a requirement for the Fast Path feature, which provides the lowest latency possible by routing traffic directly to our virtual machine and bypassing our network gateway in the process. With that, that's going to conclude this section on ExpressRoute. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one.